Hey everyone, my name is Joe and I'll give a quick overview of a little project I did that started off as a summer project during my undergrad where we looked at the landscape evolution of the Gulf of Papua over the last 2 million years. So Sabin directly supervised the project, but it definitely couldn't have been done without the help of Claire and Tristan as well. So for a quick overview, Papua New Guinea is located in the tectonically complex area full of microplates that was overall forged by the collision of the Australian and Pacific plate. So long story short, the collision uplifts the mountain range here and we get erosion and deposition of sediment into the Gulf of Papua, a basin where sediment influx has peaked over the last 5 million years. In this time, reefs have also been going through phases of proliferation and burial as they try to keep up with changing sea levels and sediment flux. So we used badlands to simulate the evolution of the Gulf over the last 2 million years, paying close attention to both the carbonates and the siliciclastic sediments. So you've all heard about badlands in the last few talks, so you'll understand that it models source-to-sink landscape evolution. This project was one of the first use cases testing the carbonates module in this context through time. So we funnel all of these inputs into badlands to create our landscape evolution model for the Gulf of Papua. So we use the Miller sea level curve based on oxygen isotope data. So we have these big fluctuations in sea level. We use TRMM precipitation data that we've projected over the last 2 million years, sediment thickness data from the last 2 million years, and we enabled reef growth by using a set of these fuzzy logic growth rules for a deep species of coral and a shallow species. Our grid resolution for these models were 5 kilometers. And of course, this is an iterative approach where we have to tweak and test some of our input parameters regarding erodibility. Here, for example, is the diffprop parameter, which controls how far sediment is transported, and we found it had a big impact on our basin shape. So you can see the impact it'll have. All of these lines are the basin shapes resulting from using a different diffprop value, and our preferred models uses the light blue line here, the diffprop value of 0.08. So finally, here's the model itself. On the left side, you'll see the landscape with uplift and erosion of the mountain, and the bright green and pink that appears are living coral species at that time, so you can see the reef module at work. On the right side, you'll see erosion in blue and deposition in red, and we can track the movement of sediment from source to sink through time, so I'll just let this play through to the present. And what's cool is, using this technology, we're able to take these cross-sections through time, interrogating specific areas at specific times in our model. So here are some cross-sections across the model, and we can use these to track the depositional history of the basin, looking at the sediment facies deposited through time. Here you can see that predominantly progradational stacking patterns are deposited, and we can see how sediment accumulates as the basin fills in. So I'll let these play through, and you can see the sediment accumulating in these various topographic lows, with the facies of sediments changing as deposition becomes shallower. Here's just another cross-section where you can see the stratal stacking patterns again, and we've also zoomed in on the area of reef growth. The reefs here are just in purple and pink, and you can see the reefs across this section line mostly formed over the last million-year period, though sporadically, as they've gone through cycles of burial and proliferation. Another thing to look at is the outwards movement of sediment facies across the basin through time, as it was being filled in, as more of the shallow facies sediments are deposited. So just to quickly wrap things off, in our model we've seen that the stratal stacking patterns are predominantly progradational, and reefs have gone through multiple phases of proliferation and burial, but mostly proliferated in the last 500,000 years. Most sediment infill was directly in the basin adjacent to the mountain range after it was filled in, but sediment began to migrate further out into this low and across this channel here. So overall though, the idea is that this project will serve as a good jumping off point for future investigations of carbonate platforms through time, and it also allowed us to explore the carbonate module in badlands within the context of Papua New Guinea. Thanks, and let me know if you have any questions.